The ice is thin, the dark is total, and the silence is a lie. This is the realm of starvation, but the monster we hunt tonight is not merely driven by hunger, it is hunger, an eternal, screaming emptiness wearing the skin of a twisted human soul. Forget the cryptids of the forest floor, we are confronting a spirit of pure malice, a creature of Native American legend that does not just kill you, it possesses you, turning you into the very thing you fear. This is the terrifying reality of the Wendigo. Tonight, Mr. Robben investigates the ultimate psychological horror. We'll expose the legends that led to real-world murder, the modern sightings in frozen woods, and the psychological contagion that transforms a desperate human into a screaming, consuming void. Our question is terrifyingly simple. What happens when the darkness outside forces the monster inside to awaken? The Wendigo is a creature born of famine and taboo. To the Algonquian nations, it is more than a monster, it is a cultural guardian, a warning against selfishness and, most horrifically, cannibalism. Legend describes a beast standing 15 feet tall, impossibly gaunt, with skin stretched tight like old leather over protruding bones. Its eyes are sunken, and its mouth is a terrifying, impossible tear. A canvas of black lips pulled back to reveal jagged, yellowed teeth, but the terrifying image is secondary to the sound, a piercing, inhuman shriek, and the chilling, whispering sound of its own name, Wendigo, always carried on the wind. The most disturbing characteristic is its eternal hunger. No matter how much it consumes, the creature remains skeletal. Its greed is self-cannibalizing. The more it eats, the larger it grows, and the larger it grows, the hungrier it becomes. It is a biological paradox driven by a spiritual curse. Imagine the scream of a beast whose own massive shadow cannot satiate its impossible appetite. The origin of the Wendigo is the most chilling part of the story. It starts as a person. The curse is primarily transmitted through two mechanisms. First, by resorting to cannibalism during a desperate winter, and second, by being possessed by the Wendigo spirit in a moment of extreme spiritual weakness or famine. One of the foundational accounts involves a Cree trapper named Swift Runner in the 1870s. After his family starved during a harsh winter, he was discovered near his cabin, looking bizarrely healthy. The bodies of his family were found dismembered. Swift Runner didn't initially deny the act. He claimed he became possessed by the Wendigo spirit, which overwhelmed his mind with a maddening, irresistible hunger. This wasn't simple survival, it was a profound, spiritual transformation. The horror here is realizing that the Wendigo is the chilling answer to the question, what does starvation truly sound like? The terror of the Wendigo is so pervasive that it spawned a real, clinical condition recognized by ethnopsychiatrists, Wendigo Psychosis. This is the terrifying pre-transformation phase. Victims would be overwhelmed by a deep, dark depression, followed by a profound anxiety that they were turning into a Wendigo. The symptoms are terrifyingly specific: an intense craving for human flesh, a belief that their own bodies are growing large and cold, and a constant, paralyzing fear of their own impending, monstrous transformation. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, this psychosis led to documented cases of murder and cannibalism, forcing local communities to take immediate, brutal action against the afflicted. The monster's greatest weapon is turning a loving neighbor into a desperate killer. We must analyze the physical form. While modern cinema depicts a deer skull, the original legend is far more unsettling. The Wendigo is characterized by its decaying, skeletal nature. Its lips are said to be completely gone, eaten away by its own unending hunger, exposing its gums and jagged, splintered teeth to the freezing air. Its breath is said to smell of rot, death, and decay. Imagine encountering this towering figure in the freezing cold, not an animal, but a walking corpse animated by the worst form of spiritual hunger. Its enormous feet leave behind a terrifyingly large, human-like print in the snow, often with only 4 toes. Witnesses describe its movement not as running, but as a terrifying, unnatural loping, a desperate chase fueled by a hunger that transcends physical need. The Wendigo's signature move is not just its attack, but its psychological warfare using sound. Unlike the brute force of other cryptids, the Wendigo uses its ability to mimic the human voice to lure its prey. Witnesses deep in the wilderness often hear a desperate plea for help, the voice of a lost child, a frantic woman, or a familiar relative. This is the sound that traps the human heart. When a search party goes to investigate the source of the desperate cries, they find nothing but the echo of their own compassion, and the monstrous tracks waiting for them. And if you hear your own name whispered on the wind, far from civilization, the horror begins. The Wendigo doesn't need to ambush you. It can simply call you to its waiting teeth. It weaponizes loneliness and trust. In the modern age, the Wendigo legend persists, particularly across the frozen expanses of northern Ontario and Minnesota. These sightings are terrifying because they often involve people who were not starving, but were simply traversing remote, hostile environments. One highly detailed account from a remote trapper spoke of being stalked for 3 days by an unseen entity. He claimed he didn't see the creature, but he experienced the Wendigo's terrifying psychological pressure, the sudden, unexplainable urge to leave the warmth of his cabin and walk aimlessly into the freezing darkness. The sense of isolation became overwhelming. When he finally looked out, he saw 2 glowing red eyes reflecting the distant firelight, huge and high above the ground. The Wendigo is less about what it eats, and more about what it makes you want to eat. Mr. Robben must now ask, is the Wendigo a biological creature, or a paranormal possession? Scientists argue that the sightings are either misidentified animals, like bears or wolves, or simply the result of acute psychosis brought on by severe isolation and pibloktok, Arctic hysteria. But the legends defy the logical explanation. No animal known to science leaves tracks of that size, possesses the ability to perfectly mimic the human voice, or exert such a profound, aggressive psychological influence over its victims. The creature appears to be a spiritual contagion, a parasitic entity that requires a human host to manifest its insatiable hunger. It is the personification of human greed taken to a terrifying, existential extreme. The Wendigo's mastery of its environment is chilling. It is intrinsically linked to the ice and the unending cold. Its body is described as being freezing to the touch, and it can move silently through the thickest underbrush and over the sharpest snow crusts without breaking its stride. Imagine being in a remote camp, hearing a massive, human-like footprint approach your door, only for the sound to suddenly vanish, leaving you staring into the dark, knowing that the creature hasn't left, but is simply waiting for your next fatal mistake. The cold is its ally, the cold is its home, and the cold is a reflection of the utter emptiness of its soul. The confrontation with a Wendigo is not a battle. It is a primal act of survival against pure malevolence. Legend says the only way to kill a Wendigo is by melting its heart of ice. But how do you melt a heart that is not physical, but spiritual? One horrifying account involves a group of loggers in the early 1900s who encountered a giant figure in the snow. They fired upon it repeatedly, but the bullets had no effect. The creature let out a terrifying, mocking shriek, and one of the loggers was overcome by a terrifying madness. He turned on his own partners, driven by a sudden, intense craving. The real Wendigo attack is turning the survivors against each other. It feeds on the flesh, but it feasts on the human soul. The Wendigo is the perfect monster for the modern world. It is a terrifying symbol of consumption and greed that can never be satisfied, whether you believe the physical monster stalks the frozen woods or the psychosis lurks in the deep corners of the human mind. The lesson is the same: the creature demands the surrender of your humanity. The terror of the Wendigo is that it is the ultimate, inescapable mirror. It shows us what we become when our inner discipline collapses and the raw, savage need takes over. The creature is out there, but the curse is already inside. The Wendigo is the manifestation of greed, while the Yakamama embodies the silence of the swamp. Which psychological curse do you find more terrifying, being possessed by uncontrollable hunger, or being hypnotized into your own watery grave? Let Mr. Robben know in the comments below.